Good morning, everybody, or afternoon, as the case may be. It is noontime here in sunny Arizona. It's been kind of chilly, but we're doing well. And this is Defying Expectations Over 60, where we talk about what people over 60 are doing to make a change in the world, even at a time when they're meant to be, or society thinks they ought to be slowing down. So, my very special guest today is Buddy Thornton. He's a friend of mine. He is a positive social change agent pro, which is it's a mouthful, but it's pretty cool what he does. He's also an international best-selling author. He's a great grandfather, and I don't mean just that he's great at being a grandfather. I mean he's a great grandfather. He's a mediator. And I think later on in the show, we'll talk about his nonprofit work. He is the COO, Chief Operating Officer of a nonprofit. And Buddy, I would love you to introduce yourself a little bit further to our audience.
Well, I appreciate that, Suki. When you asked me to come on, I thought, well, let me see, over 60. I can't remember before 60, so I guess that's a good thing. Um, I'm a great grandfather. I live here in the Phoenix metro area, and I've been married to my wife almost 50 years. We did get married during the Vietnam War era, and she was a USO entertainer. And out of all the guys she could have picked, I got lucky, I guess. So I look at her as God's gift, and I've treated her that way the entire time. But it was wartime, and we did have our children rather quickly. So we were very, very young, very inexperienced. And that led to some grandchildren pretty early on, too. And then as nature takes hold, wow, we've got great grandkids now. So, and just that watershed of a couple of years ago, getting a 5 generation picture with my dad was a culmination of what I consider my body of work through my lifetime. So
Yeah.
that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah, that is awesome. 5 generations is so unusual, and you're lucky that you had that opportunity. And congratulations on your family. That's fantastic. You know, I remember the Vietnam era. You were about 4 years older than me, which makes you 68. I'm 60, almost 64. And I grew up at the very tail end of the draft years. So, that when the war was ending, I was in junior high, early high school. And so my friends were not draft age. My closest friends were not draft age, but I certainly know a lot of brothers of friends who went to the war. You know, thank you for your service.
It was an honor.
Yeah. So tell me what you're doing now. I mean, you are a multi hyphenate. Like, what's a typical day like for you?
Well, I get up fairly early in the morning because I have clients on the East Coast that I talk to early, and I don't want to wake my wife up. So I'm on the road, and I'm working with people here locally with my logistics work while I'm handling clients on the phone in Texas and on the East Coast, North Carolina, New York, Boston, you name it. And I pretty much spend my mornings taking care of what I like to call my lower revenue streams, and then I spend the rest of my day either doing research or writing my Slippery Slope series of books. The first four are all international bestsellers. They're available on Amazon,
Fantastic.
and I just believe that when you reach our age, if you don't have multiple revenue streams or you aren't already fairly well set for retirement, that you owe it to the next generation not to become a burden on them. So either you're going to be where you need to be, or you need to keep striving to be where you need to be, because you don't want them to say, "Wow, why didn't you take care of yourself?" So that's kind of
Mhm.
me in a nutshell.
Yeah, awesome. So when you talk about clients, what kind of clients?
Well, I do editorial enhancing and ghostwriting for people. I've got one client in New Jersey, the New Jersey, New York area that is writing her anthology book about her life and her siblings. I've got another client in Texas who is writing her book, and I also have business clients, people who rely on me to give them consulting in various areas. Usually, it's conflict mitigation or how to proactively set up their business so they can prevent conflict in the future.
Yeah,
And
that's
of
awesome.
course, in my writing, I do editing. I do straight editing, so I can do that for people too.
So straight editing, so people hand you a book and you have at it.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
I was gifted. My mother wanted me to really be good in school, so she started me very young, reading very quickly. So I
Mhm.
read about 1,300 words a minute.
Wow.
So when you can consume and have comprehension at a fairly high level, you have a leg up on other people. That's not saying that it's going to benefit you if you don't use it right. But in my case, what I do is it gives me a chance to go through material fairly quickly, pick out concepts and keywords so I can research, and then I can circle back and help people enhance their work. And it makes the book so more readable, and it also allows them to pick up some things they may not have think of.
Right.
Uh, and the other thing, what it does is it allows me to consume enough material to where I can continue to broaden my education even at my age.
Yes, wow. So you're pretty much nonstop. First of all, my question is, can you teach people how to read at 1,300 words a minute? Because we were talking before the show started, I've got about a 2 foot high stack of books that I want to make time for. Yours among them, of course.
Well, the first thing that you have to do when you learn to read is you have to understand that it is it's part in my case it's part of learning how to do effective research. I'll read a book. What I'll do is I'll skim through it fairly quickly, and that's
Mhm.
way faster than 1,300 words a minute.
Sure.
But what I'm looking for is I'm looking for areas that I'm very familiar with and areas that I might need to get bogged down in. And then I will go through the material a second time, and that's where I'm already a little bit familiar with the material. Your brain, being a neurological machine, allows you to pick up on familiar strings, and then you
Yes.
can bind them together. So what you're actually doing is you're reading either multiple sentences or a paragraph at a time. But you're just able to do that. I started with a program called the SRA reading program back when I was in second grade.
Oh
It's no
gosh.
longer available, obviously, because now we're in the digital age.
Yes.
But what you did was you read one side of a piece of paper and then you flipped it over and answered the questions on the back side. And you didn't get to advance until you could answer 100% of the questions properly. And I was able to go from the low area, which was in the purple, all the way up to platinum, which was at the 1,300 words a minute. And
Wow.
when I did that over a 2 year period. So what I did was I had the gift from my mother of training my brain when I was very young to
Mhm.
be able to encapsulate data at a rapid rate.
Yeah.
And what I try to compare it to in today's world is OCR technology,
Oh
where
yeah.
you use OCR to capture documents and then pull keywords out of those documents. Well, that's what SRE was, but it was on a biological level, not on a digital level.
Interesting. Yeah, OCR being optical character recognition. Yeah. Yeah,
Exactly.
very familiar with that, having spent 35 years in the technology field. So, yeah, I started reading early, really early too. I was an avid nonstop reader by the time I was in 3rd grade. Like, I just went through books like nobody's business, and I loved it, and I still love it. I still love to read. I read a lot of nonfiction. I read, a lot of nonfiction, a lot of history, um, and a lot of fiction too, which I love. So, tell me a little bit about what your one thing that I do wanna ask you about is your advanced degrees. So tell everybody sort of your time frame here for, you are technically Dr. Buddy Thornton. Tell us about that.
Well, I got my bachelor's degree very young, right after I got out of the military. And I have to be really honest. I had with 4 children at home, very young, the lowest two being in diapers still for the majority of my college years. My grade point average was just barely nominal to get my bachelor's degree, like a 2.6 or something like that,
Mhm.
because I had to work full time and I had to take care of people. And I was like, well, that pretty much aces me out of doing much of anything else. But then I was really good at a sport. I became a professional bowler, as well as I always was an independent contractor. Always worked for myself as a consultant and as a in the logistics field, supply chain.
Mhm.
And so I was able to navigate most of my 30s and 40s without really even thinking, well, what's my plan for when I'm done, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Well, when I got toward the end of my career, I said, I need to do something with this. And I, like you say, being an avid reader, man, I knew I could get through material. I did my master's degree at Liberty University it's a 2-year program. I did it in 10 months.
Mm.
Thanks for that gift of being able to read. And then I pivoted immediately into the doctoral program at Grand Canyon University. My master's is in human services counseling and executive leadership, and my doctorate is in cross-cultural competency and conflict management with an emphasis on organizational leadership.
Yes.
So always, big like alphabet soup, right? Who cares about the alphabet soup? I care about helping people. I think the advanced degrees allowed me to hobnob with very, very intelligent people. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to speak and work at every level of society. And that's what took me to my nonprofit work, where I work with disadvantaged youth. And, it's just, you have to give back no matter who you are, no matter where you are. My pursuit of an education was to protect my family and make sure I could keep making money as I get into my golden years.
Mhm.
But my work with the nonprofit was the realization that I've always had a gift. I've always been in a good position throughout my entire adult life. And some of these kids, if they don't have someone who reaches over and puts their hands on their shoulder, they're never going to get there. And
Yes.
so that's my world.
That's
I
your heart
focus.
cen that's your heart world.
Yeah, I focus on taking care of my family. I take focus on taking care of the kids who call me Dr. Buddy, and these kids. A lot of them live with grandparents. They don't have parents, or they have a single mom who works 3 jobs. You know
Mhm.
what? If your heart doesn't break when you work with them, I don't know how it would. I mean, it's just the way it is. But
Yeah.
yeah, my educational journey was so that I could fulfill all those dreams that I had that I postponed because I was a good athlete.
Yep, yep. And so you got your master's at 58?
58. Actually, it
Doctorate?
was December of 2014. Yes.
Okay. And then your doctorate?
2020, I finished all of my classes, and my dissertation is an ongoing job. Eventually I'll either finish it or I won't. But
Right. But you've done the
last
work,
year,
yeah.
yeah, last year I published a third of a million words and put out 4 best-selling international books. So, it's hard to do your dissertation and write those books at the same time.
Yes, yes. So you did all your coursework, you finished that at 65, and then you wrote 4 books, oh well, and you continue to work with people. I'm tired just even hearing about everything that you do, and, talk about a gift of energy and a sound mind. We were talking a little bit earlier, my mother, passed away of Alzheimer's, and she started her decline right around 65. And, so I'm just really determined that it's not going to get me. And, I'm going to keep my mind sharp and keep active and keep doing the things that are going to keep those synapses firing and try to keep them healthy. And you're certainly doing the same.
Well, part of my education, my bachelor's degree was in biomechanics. And so I was able to focus on how to keep my body healthy. But I
Mm,
also understood the neurobiology, and my favorite class was genetic anthropology and how the body adapts. And there's a part of genetics called epigenetics, and it
yes,
is how your
I've
body,
heard. Yeah.
yeah, it's how your body adapts to the environment or the stressors you bring to bear. And, my dad lived to be almost 93, but he was extremely functional all the way up to, I mean, he was doing everything he needed to do to take care of self care and everything into his early
Mhm.
90s. And once COVID hit, we had to move him into an area where he'd be closer to care.
Yes.
And I talked to him about a year before he passed away, and I asked him how things were going, and he said, "Son, COVID sucks." and and but his cognitive decline was so rapid over about a 9-month period. He went from being a fully functional 92-year-old to
Mhm.
in the grave, and that was because he lost the ability to feel that he was relevant, that he was important. So,
Mhm.
it's not just using your brain, because if you
No.
use it, you keep it. If you don't use it, you're going to lose it. So I tell people, yeah, you're going to want to retire, but if you retire and you don't have a plan to keep using your faculties, they're going to decline rapidly. So
Yes.
you need to have a plan. You need to decide, you know what, after 60, I'm looking to, I still have 40 years. I want to live to be 100.
Mhm.
40 years, that's a long, long time.
Yeah.
So, if I'm not actually writing or reading nonfiction, in my leisure time, I listen to fantasy fiction. I listen to other types of fiction books. I'll pick up a physical book and read it. And my wife will go, "Why are you doing that when you can listen to them or whatever?" And I'm like, because I'm engaging my brain with
In a
all
different
these
way.
different conduits,
Yes,
because
yes.
I want every part of my brain to be challenged, because I want it to be fresh. I want it to be ready to go. I know 50 and 60-year-olds who cannot compete on that level because they haven't got a game plan. They don't want
Mhm.
to be creative. They don't want to stress themselves, push themselves so that they maintain a level of independence that is remarkable. And yet,
Yes.
I know, I'm sure you mentioned 80 and 90-year-olds who are still out there
Yep.
doing everything they want to do. One of my very close friends, her name is Sandy Roberts. She's 81 years old. She just took a teaching job,
Oh
and
my gosh.
and she's working with disadvantaged youth, but she's also a counselor, and she's been a worldwide suicide expert for over 30 years.
Wow.
And she goes on podcasts, she goes on interviews, she goes on television shows, and she told me, she said, we are going to be around when a lot of the people we're teaching right now can't even function.
Yeah.
And that's because we have a reason and we have a vision that keeps us relevant.
And I'm so glad you brought that up because with my business, Courage Rises, I really specialize in helping people who are at women, especially at or nearing retirement age, to envision the rest of their lives, to retire and rewire. And I don't care if it's retiring from child rearing or from a long-term career. It's important not to rust out. And if you can envision something for yourself, whether it's like a business or just like you said, giving back, you might want to make it your vision to be really instrumental in affecting the lives of X number of children over your next 20 years. And, putting a plan together. If you don't plan and take action, you're going to be, not getting there. You're going to be sitting around. And it's really important to have a plan and to move in a particular direction. The plan may change, but you're still engaging your brain, you're still engaging your body, you're still out there engaging with people, which is so important, especially as we age, is to stay social and meet people who are younger than you as well as older than you. And it's an amazing time of life because of I call us now the wisdom workforce or the wisdom generation because we've got a lot of experience. Like we've seen stuff work, we've seen stuff, go down in flames. And I think, what was the expression you said a little earlier before we came on camera? You said you can see trouble coming like around the bend before it gets
Well,
here.
once you have a certain amount of wisdom, the number one thing I do is I obviously coach in conflict circles. And I tell people, I said, when I'm dealing with someone who's above 60, I don't need to show them how to look at the horizon and see conflict coming at them. They
Hmm.
already know, because they've gone through enough failure. Right? It's either succeed or learn, right? It's the only way
Hmm.
to fail is to quit.
Yep.
So when you've seen failure so many times that you can go, nope, nope, that's not going to work. And you don't need to go through the entire process to see that it's a failure. You already know it's time to stop the loss and just move to something different that will work.
Yep.
I do an elder mediation series to help people who are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s deal with their elderly parents.
Oh, I got someone I want to connect with you if you're
And
not already connected.
okay, and I tell people, I said, look, there's three things you need to realize. Number one, the elderly need to know that they're still relevant. They need to still believe that they can
Identity.
engage, and they also need to understand that they are still in control until they no longer can functionally be in control. And the biggest thing that I see, the biggest conflict that I see is when the 40s and 50s and the early 60s try to start taking things away, from their elderly parents.
Yeah.
And they don't have the professional ability, first of all, and they don't have the understanding of what they're doing to force mental and psychological decline onto their parents.
Yes. Yeah.
So they really need to circle to a third party, someone like myself who specializes in that area, and say, it's time for me to take the keys away from dad. How am I going to handle this? And my answer normally is, okay, well, I'm not expensive, but let me interject into the conversation. Let me, introduce me to your parents. Let me work with them, and then I will give you the wherewithal and just show you where you can very, very subtly help them so that they don't go into a rapid decline, and so that you can enjoy them for the next 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
Why would you just want to put your parents into a warehousing situation and then lose them in 3 years?
Yeah.
Because that's the average. That's what happens. They get warehoused and they're gone.
Yeah.
So, we're a gift to society, Suki. Once you get 60, that's what you should see yourself as. And you should tell people who don't believe that, challenge me. Ask me any question you want to ask me. Don't ask me a question about your digital world. Ask me a question that's relevant to everybody.
Yes. Relationships, work. Yes. Aging. Yeah.
Exactly. Because, maybe I don't know a whole lot about Fortnite. Maybe I don't know a whole lot about their games. And maybe I don't know a little bit about some of the new language they use.
Right.
But I work in the conflict space, and I work a lot with parents and teens, so I think I'm pretty well in there.
Well, you know what Fortnite is, so.
I do know what Fortnite is, but I've never played it. My son tried to show me yesterday. Now he's in his mid-40s. He said, "Hey, look at this new controller for these games." I said, "I don't even know what the old controller looks like. Why do I care?" So, we are a gift to society, but we have to realize that we have to be actively engaged in giving ourselves to society.
Yes.
They're not going to come look for us as a gift. We have to make sure that we are active, loud, proud, that we are a gift. And we
and make ourselves relevant.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that thought. Well, and with that, buddy, this has been a delightful conversation. Thank you. It's time for us to wrap up, short attention spans and all. I like to keep it around 20 minutes. So that's where we are.
Sure.
And I will be putting your contact information for anybody who wants to meet you, or, just have a conversation with you or partake of some of your services. I will put that in. We're live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube right now. If you're watching the replay, just throw us a hashtag replay, and just know we're thinking about you too. But this has been a really great interview, and I would love for us to spend more time together.
Well, Suki, it's my pleasure. And if you need anything, you know how to find me. Just reach out.
I sure do. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Got to find the button here.